Welcome to Let's Grow Podcast, where we explore the highs and lows of entrepreneurship with some of the most successful and inspiring business leaders in our communities. Each episode, we sit down with a guest who has taken the leap into entrepreneurship, whether it's starting a company from scratch, maybe taking over the family business, or pivoting from the traditional career path. We dive into their stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned, uncovering the secrets to their success and the obstacles they have overcome along the way. So join us as we learn from the best and discover what it takes to grow a business and thrive as an entrepreneur. And today, we're sitting down with Jennifer Rhead with Rhead Plumbing, who's coming back to the show now that she's grown her business to see what all the secrets are. How are you doing today, Jen?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, you were on our show maybe 2 years ago, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. And it was just you and Joe, right? And now you have 3 trucks on the road?
We have 2 looking to hire one more.
Looking to hire one more. So what have you learned from starting out, right? Because the first episode that people can go back and watch, we were talking about how you plug into the community. You started with the chambers and then networking with businesses. And then just from there, it just snowball where you're getting super busy. And now here you are. You have another plumber on your team, and then you're looking to hire another one. So, what has led up to that? And I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah, I think since we continue to do good work and people see that and they tell their neighbors, they tell their friends, we just aren't able to get to people as quickly as they sometimes need. And so with that, we wanted to make sure that we have enough people on staff so that when that water emergency happens, we can go that same day and not say, I'm sorry, but we're, booked out a week. And so we just want to be able to help people more quickly.
Yeah, because that speaks high that when it was just you and Joe, I mean, I remember you saying sometimes that you're like almost 2 weeks booked out, right? And that's a good thing because that means people are willing to wait to use y'all because you do the right thing. And now having more team, it's going to just benefit you more, right?
Yes.
One thing that I've noticed over the years is you don't, because we talk a lot, you don't spend a lot like some companies out there, like running Facebook ads, running Google ads, doing magazines, doing billboards, doing like all these maybe quote unquote traditional type marketing. So what are some of the things that you are doing that it just helps you get the word out that Rhead Plumbing is the company to use?
I think it starts with me in the office with just being able to be there to help and answer questions to the customers when they first call. And then just the guys out there doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because that all speaks for itself. So from start to finish, you're going to have a good experience with us, or we're going to be there to help talk you through it and figure out what the next plan is. And from that, people just tell people. I had a phone call today from someone who was asking if they could help us get more calls. And honestly, I said, we can't handle the ones we already get.
Yeah.
And it's truly been word of mouth and being part of Let's Grow and the Chamber that have just continued to share our business information.
And what wanted you to just stick to that type of, whether it's advertising, marketing, you want to call it, like that type of natural growth versus sometimes local businesses, they just want to go from 0 to 100 like tomorrow. So they just start spending money like crazy.
I never wanted to lose our personal touches. And I met someone yesterday at the women's conference who I actually didn't even know who she was, but she knew who I was and said, I was just talking about y'all to a friend last night, and the friend was saying how impressed they were with 2 days after their call or that we had been there, they received our thank you postcard in the mail. And I was telling her, I was like, no matter how big we get, I don't want those little things to go away because I feel like that's what makes us different from other people. Like, I don't want to have 10 trucks on the road right now. I want to be able to fully manage and support the plumbers that we do have and the customers that we have. Like, I want to keep those relationships real and truthful, then hurry up to the next call. That's just not how we operate.
Yeah, and that's always good because especially in today's world where we live in a AI world now where people just rely on AI so much, like that authenticity, that human touch is looked over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're doing an amazing job still, not going away from that because people truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
People want human connection still.
Yes.
You know, I was listening to something the other day, or even this morning on my walk, and they were talking about how unless AI can start purchasing stuff, for instance, unless AI can start, going and doing plumbing work,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to replace anybody.
Yeah.
Right? It's not becoming the buyer. AI is not the buyer. So as business owners, we can't overlook the things that we're doing for the consumers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's an amazing story. So hiring, firing, growing, what is maybe the next step that y'all are going towards right now?
I think help for me in the office. Joe and I were just talking about that yesterday too.
So you could be on a beach?
Well, not necessarily on a beach. However, Joe's job is right now still in the field. So he's plumbing, where I am out there building the relationships. I'm doing all of the accounting. I'm answering the phones. I'm scheduling calls. I'm marketing, social media. I am doing all of that. And he has one focus. And I said, so once we get, at least for sure one, if not two more plumbers, then I need help. I need someone who can help answer the phone and do some of those other things so that I can be more involved in other things that we want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm already stretched too thin myself.
So why not build that out now through AI or virtual assistants or maybe some type of software that can handle that?
Well, and we do have a virtual assistant through the software that we use that I use, when I am in meetings. However, it's not the same. And people know that. And people have really gotten to associate Rhead Plumbing with Joe and I and the family that we bring with that. And that's why I want eventually to have a dedicated person. So it is, if I'm not answering the phone, whoever we hire is answering the phone and can truly know our customers and know what we've done there. It's great to have maybe AI or a VA answer your phone, but they don't know the history with that customer. They don't know the history of your company and how you did things. So it's just not the same.
I think a lot of times business owners, and there's no right or wrong way, right? Where sometimes, like even in real estate, you view it as transactional and relational business. And I think y'all have done a great job of being relational. And if you ever get past that, then word is going to start spreading and things. And that's really sometimes that could kill a business when you decide, think about it. Like let's just say Amazon or Walmart, all these big name boxes where if they change one thing because they're corporate minded, there's consumers who stop using them, right? And then you start seeing sales go down. Or if maybe a manufacturing plant moved overseas and the quality isn't the same, then they start losing ground, right? And if we do that as local community type businesses, that could necessarily put us out of business, right? And there are some great companies out there that they scale and that's fine and they build big and they use the AI and all the virtual assistants and things like that, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And it just boils down to what are your values and how do you want to grow your business, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your business.
And don't get me wrong, like I love AI, like to be able to help create certain things or, if I'm having a hard time wording something for social media, like I'm all for it, but I feel like just there's some tasks that you need to have a person doing it.
Yes. You definitely do.
Yes.
And think about it. Stores try to do self-checkouts and they got rid of cashiers.
And people hate it.
And people hate that now. They want the actual cashier to come back, right? But then companies still aren't doing it. Or you'll see companies that now have both. They're bringing back the cashiers. And then those longs are long and you can see the self-checkouts empty.
Yes, and they spent all that money to switch over to self-checkout to just bring back regular, like Target did that. They had spent all their money like changing things out and then they had to bring back their real people.
And it's hard because I've done it, right? I went through a whole rebrand and it dipped our business, and I was like, nope, got to go back. And when we go back, everything comes back to life, you know? So I get it. It's part of growing pains.
It is, yes.
Of being a business owner, right? And so what is maybe one obstacle over the past 2 years since you first, were on the show, and now that you've grown to one and looking for another plumber, what is maybe the one biggest obstacle that y'all faced, and how did you overcome that?
I think when you bring people on, you want to assume that everyone is going to like love your business as much as you do. And you hope that they treat it that way, or they work as hard as you. And that's not how it is.
Nope.
And so finding a way to trust people, but then also bring in the people who you know are going to be the right fit. And I feel like sometimes you're going to go through people until you find the ones that are truly like fitting in with your thing. So I do think that is one thing that we're learning, how do we find that right person? You can ask all the questions in the world during the interview, but I think sometimes until someone gets in there and is doing the work, you just don't know.
Yeah, and I was talking to another partner of ours where, he was going through some interviews and stuff, and he's like, and I was listening to what's that dude's name? Big insurance company, corporate. Now he's a podcaster or speaker, David something. And it was an old video about hiring and firing or whatnot. And he mentioned the same thing. He's like, there are going to be people that hire or interview very well. But there's also, you have 5 things to look for when they start working for you, because they may not pan out. And then you just have to hurry and move on before it starts, changing the culture of the team. If you have a huge sales team or, your own business or whatever, right? And that's just part of being a business owner and growing. Yeah. Those are part of the growing pains, of you got to just find the right fit. And you're exactly right. I'm sorry to tell you, because I've listened to several big people like the Gary V's and everybody, where nobody is ever going to care about Rhead Plumbing more than you and Joe. Same goes with Stash, right? Nobody's ever going to care about it. We all want them to be, right? We all want them to be part of the family and stuff. But we all know that maybe even sometimes you don't get along with family members. And so that's the same thing in business. It just doesn't work out. Yeah. And you just have to build that trust, and slowly give them maybe more responsibilities and not just give it all to them at once. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah. Yeah. So what did you take away? Because you just went to the women's conference for the Wylie Chamber yesterday. I think it's their sixth one we've done. Yeah. I've been seeing all the social posts, lots of great stuff. What maybe 1 or 2 takeaways that you had from there?
I think one of the things was talking about being able to multiply and to let certain things go. Vanessa talked about that at the very beginning. It was, writing down everything that you do, and then looking at what is personal to you, and then what could anybody do? Yeah. And once you find that list, being able to truly let it go. And I believe she said, teach it. What did she say? Teach it, coach it, release it. And I really liked how she talked about that, because that is true. I may answer the phone and do things a certain way, but anybody can do that, And so it's teaching that person but then being able to fully let it go, give it to that person and let them do it. And I think that's probably why I brought that conversation up to Joe last night, is because I was like thinking of all of the things that I do for our business. And while I love doing all of it, it's a lot for one person to do, and be a mom and be a wife, and kids are running to sports and all the things. Like you can't. There's no way you can physically do it all without draining yourself.
Yeah, and that's like one coach where I think we even talked about it on Let's Grow before, where I've told people every hour write down what you did. There's 2 ways to look at it. It's one, like Vanessa did, an amazing way that you just mentioned. That's a great way to put it. Of the task that you can maybe leverage to somebody else later on. But from the other spectrum and aspect of it, I told people, Write down what you did every day, like maybe for 7 days straight, every hour what you did. Because this goes towards when people complain about not having any business and they're effing off and they're just scrolling on social media and then they wonder why they don't have any business, right? So you can do both at the same time. It's like if you are very busy, write it down. And then she said, what was it?
She said, teach it, coach it, release it.
And release it. Because you can teach it, but then you can't just give it to them, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be able to coach them up. And before you're able to just finally say, okay, bam. And then on the other part where when people are suffering from business, it's like, well, stop effing off. Yeah. You're going to see the gaps and all this white space in your tasks or whatever that you wrote down and be like, yeah, I better get my ass to work.
Yeah, I didn't do anything today.
I didn't do anything this week or for these 3 months. And it's notorious in real estate. And that's why agents fail within the first 2 years because they see these shows, they think it's easy, and it's not. Yeah. Right? And it's not. So, and what was maybe another takeaway you had?
I think also being like true to you and truly knowing like what you want. So I think especially as women, we can easily kind of fall into a pattern or we can do things just because we think that's what needs to be done or that's what we think people expect of us. So we don't ever truly get to be who we want to be because we're too busy pleasing everybody else and wearing all these different hats. And so just because the theme was being unbridled. So being able to be your true self and do the things that you really want to do or get back to. Maybe it's something just as easy as a hobby that you used to have, but you don't get to do it anymore, or you think you don't have time. But then as you sit down and lay things out, if you let people help you or, put people in different pathways, you would have that time.
So does that mean you're going to get back into nonprofits?
I don't know. I mean,
because I know in the past that was one of your passions is that you used to love working or doing the nonprofit stuff.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that is just more volunteering. In my part, like I love that passion, like that way. And I did work in domestic violence and sexual assault before this. And I would love to be able to donate or, give my time in a different way. Or I was talking with Rebecca Rogers with Five Loaves yesterday and the need that is there for kids and being able to volunteer in more capacity. Yeah. It's great. We love to sponsor and we help when we can, but sometimes I just like to be able to do it, like physically volunteer instead of just giving the money.
Yeah, which is good, right? And you have to be able to check that off, that passion of yours, so that way you get back to being who you are and what you do. But there's also a time and place to do it, right? Yeah. We got to get Joe, that other plumber. We got to get you some help in the office that frees you up to go do these things, right? Because a lot of times I think people give their energy too much and say yes because I was a victim of it. I used to tell everybody yes. I couldn't say no. That was how I built my brand, right? People think that the logo and the mustache is the brand, but it's not. It was me. Me saying yes to everybody, doing all things, being everywhere for everybody. Those were the standards and values that I did, but it killed me. It kept burning me out. Yeah. And I was giving too much energy and not receiving energy. I remember that Christy Denham, a friend of ours, both of ours, when I first started networking, she would just call me and say, hey, I'm just checking in. Like, I know you give a ton of energy, and I love the way she put it. That's why I always remember. I will never forget it. She's like, you give out so much energy. Who's putting that energy back into you? And that's what really got me thinking. And I was just like, you're right. There's a lot of people that drain our energy, but that we don't get it back, whether it's not from them, but just maybe somebody else pouring it back into us. And then that's how we lead to burnout and to the passions that we have that go away.
So when you made or saw that and made that switch of not saying yes, did you feel like, how did it change?
It changed by me realizing who I was hanging out with. We say that all the time. Who are we spending the most time with? Yeah. And are we getting in life the reciprocity, whatever I don't know how to say that word. Yeah. But you know what I mean. Yes. Are we getting it back? And you have to just analyze and say, you know what? No, I know I don't like to count referrals. I don't like to count this, but it's just about other aspects and ways of, am I getting something back in return? Relationships are two-way streets. Think about it. If in a marriage, if it's only one-sided, they're going to get a divorce, right? Or if they're in a relationship, they're going to break up. If in business, if you have an employee and they're not doing their job and you're still covering it, you're going to fire them. It's like everything is a two-way street. Same goes with friendships. Same goes with business relationships. Same goes with the networking is huge, right? Somebody the other day left one of our groups because they joined a month ago and they ain't got no business, and they're like, "I'm leaving." I'm like, "What do you do again?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, but what do you do again?" And it was just like, dude, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
People always want that instant gratification, right? It's like our Gen Zer just mentioned in our group the other day where this world is instant gratification.
Yes.
We've built this world up to instantly. I need it now. And it's like, no, you don't.
It takes time.
It takes time. Things take time to develop relationships.
Yeah.
And so I just started analyzing who I was spending most of my time or who was taking all my energy, and I just had to start saying no. I had a phone call the other day with a friend. She was like, "Are you calling me to switch brokers?" I said, "No, I'm calling to check in on you. Like, I've been texting you, been calling you, and you haven't responded. And you say, pray for me, and you say, do this." And I'm like, well, what the hell's going on? And so I just called to check in. And then she just tells me all the time, like, "Okay, yeah, thank you, and we just start talking. And it was just like, you got to check in on people.
Yeah.
And, there are true, genuine people out there that still care. And sometimes we don't take the time to do those check-ins with people because people think that we always want something out of them.
Yes.
And it's like, no, we don't. I just want to check in with you. And so, yeah. So what do you think? We're almost midway in 2026. What is the next goal for Rhead Plumbing in the next 6 months?
I would say I would like to have at least one more plumber and maybe not a full-time office assistant, but at least part-time.
Okay.
So
let's talk plumber. What do you look for, or what does Joe look for during this interview process or the search for a plumber?
So I think since our main type of work that we do is residential repair, we really want someone with residential experience. So we've just found that they could be a plumber and have 10 years experience, but if they've only worked commercial, it doesn't always translate the same. It's not the same. Like when we are doing residential repair, you're in someone's home, you're communicating with the people who live there, and that is a different ball. I mean, that your communication skills have to be good as well as your plumbing skills.
Yeah. You got to understand, like, even in real estate, that's their biggest financial, purchase that they've ever done. But if they've lived there for 20 years, you have 20 years of emotions that are going through that. And when something happens to that house, it takes away from that. And if you're transactional or you have no customer service type skills or you're not relatable or personable, they're going to fire you because you have to be able to, like in real estate, we say we wear a ton of hats. I'm the psychiatrist. I'm the therapist.
That's what I was just going to say. You don't know.
You don't know. And when somebody has lived in their home, even a year or 10 years, they've poured so much money, time, memories into it, and things go wrong, they are heartbroken.
Yes.
And so you have to be able to be relatable.
Yes. And I think, and also, I mean, how many times we've gone into a house and the spouse has passed away and the spouse was the one who used to handle all of those things. And so it's sometimes just going in and sitting and listening before you get the work done. And that's one of the things I think that we pride ourselves on is we're going to take the time to be there. And that's why we book longer times, because to add those times where you just need to sit and listen sometimes.
Yeah, because you definitely do. Because, I mean, like you mentioned it, if somebody passed away and they were doing that, there's going to be those emotions. And it goes back to if we're using too many AI or virtual assistants or telemarketers or to do any of that, and it's not personable, it's not going to make a leeway into when the plumber shows up or you show up to their door for whatever appointment, that all goes out the door. It all has to flow the way you've built your business.
Yeah.
So, and if you're looking for a part-time or office staff, what are some of the things you look for, you think?
I will not say they have to have experience in the plumbing world. I had no experience. I mean, we can teach that. I think it's more important that they can communicate. And I mean, you need empathy. I mean, a lot of times people are calling, like we've just talked about, and something bad is happening in their house, and being able to empathize with them. And sometimes you are coaching them through different things,
Yeah.
on the phone. And so I think more or less good communication skills, I think, is more important than plumbing skills.
Because everything else can be taught.
Yes, exactly.
All right, before we wrap up, because we only got a couple minutes.
Yeah.
How's your apprenticeship going?
I am lacking in my hours.
Oh.
And that was another thing too. So hiring someone else to help in the office so where I can go out and do more things. Because I have to go with Joe. So when you're apprentice, you have to work alongside of the master. And so that's one thing that I need to.
Well, kudos to you, though, wanting to get that just to be educated, to be able to relate to customers, what they're going through, talk the shop with them. Exactly. Oh, maybe it sounds like you're having dealing with this, so we're going to need to set you up with this, right? It just shows how much more you care about your clients because you're willing to go and do those type of things, right? Where most people wouldn't. Like even office staff, like maybe you hire your next admin and then they're with you for 2 or 3 years. Maybe that's something they go into because they need to now start relating to it, right? That's an opportunity for growth on them, but it just shows how much you care about the client, the consumer, the customer, because you're willing to do that. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been awesome having you on here.
So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what areas do you serve and how can people get a hold of you?
So we typically serve, I would say, like the Wylie area. So within mostly like Collin County is pretty much where we service.
Okay.
Yes. And you can find us on any social media at Rhead Plumbing. And that's
so
it.
If you have a plumbing need, you better call Rhead.
That's right.
Did I nail it?
You got it.
Let's
right.
go.
You nailed it.
Oh, yes. All right, guys. So if you do actually have a plumbing need, yes, I highly recommend Rhead Plumbing. They've worked on our personal homes. They worked on client homes. They worked on our rental properties. Everywhere. They will not let you down. And so if you have a plumbing need, better call Rhead. So I want to thank you for all tuning in. If you have questions for either of us, drop them in the comments. Be sure to hit that like, that subscribe. And until next time, let's grow.